If someone asked me what anime reminds me of the 2000s, I'd probably say Naruto. Maybe animes like Familiar Zero, Heavenly Lost Property, or even Ouran Host Club. But Death Note, that's probably one of the last things to come to my mind. Still, it's one of the most popular animes ever made. It had a lot of eyes on it during the early 2000s and 2010s, while being a mystery drama anime with slight gay undertones. But it's been a long time since, and I just wanted to rewatch it and ask a few questions. Let's revisit Death Note. I hate videos that are 90% plot summaries, and it's a Death Note out of all animes, so let's get this out of the way quick. Light Yagami, a Japanese high school student, finds a random notebook in the middle of the yard. Suspicious. Is it someone's diary? Is it someone's school notebook? Nope. Turns out it's a notebook that can kill anyone whose name is written on it. Of course, you need the face as well, and there's a few rules on it, like if the cause of death isn't written, then they'll just die of a heart attack. You also have about 6 minutes to write out the details. Very standard things to find lying outside your classroom. Of course, Light, being the sociopath he is, tests it out. The first time it works, but he doesn't believe it. The second time, he writes down the cause of death, and now he knows it's real because the dude just got isekai in front of him, and there's no way to deny it. From then on out, Light immediately begins to think that he's the god of a new world, with his way of justice prevailing. And then he met the Shinigami of the notebook, Ryuk. And he is one ugly looking creature, man. If I had to see him in real life, it would be an instant jump scare. He takes up the pseudonym of Kira, and within a week, the ICPO, which is basically the anime's Interpol, starts an investigation. During a meeting that they're having, the world's greatest detective, a man that calls himself just L, puts himself in charge of the Kira case. He wants to find out who this mass murderer is, which means he has a job, unlike some people. And with L on the case, and Light writing down everything in his notebook, thus beginning one of the greatest cat and mouse chases in anime history. Revisiting Death Note just reminded me the fact that not a single person in this world should be trusted with that book. Because throughout the series, every single person that uses it gets easily corrupted by the power. And finding anyone's name nowadays is just one search away. The Death Note would be infinitely more dangerous in our time currently than it would have ever been during the time that Light had possession of it in like 2005. But a great story means nothing without great characters, and Death Note has them. When we talk about characters like Light Yagami, he's basically a toddler with 500 IQ. He has a childlike sense of justice that quickly spirals into a full-blown god complex and even manages to evolve past that. He has very little to no self-control. He manipulates any and everyone around him, including his father, his girlfriend, his mom, his sister, and he's willing to discard anyone, even his own family's safety, just to protect the secret of the Death Note. Not even counting the time where his sister got kidnapped or his father was traumatized. He set up a legitimate firebomb in their home in case anyone tried to forcefully unlock the Death Note. Looking back at it, Light is one of the biggest sociopaths I've ever seen in anime. He is incapable of having any emotions like love and empathy. For anyone out there making videos about how to be like Light Yagami, we need to put y'all down, bro. We do not need any Light Yagamis walking this earth, man. And yet, despite all of these heinous things that he has done, he's written with so much depth that you almost understand where he's coming from. But the key word is almost, because Light is still a self-centered person that only cares about people who opposed him than bringing justice. He'd write down a newborn baby if the baby was in the way. Then you got L, an absolute weirdo with no social skills who probably eats his own toenails, but he's just as well written as Light, and it's not them, it's characters like Misa, Ryuk, Nier, Mello, Matsuda, Mikami, Kiyomi, Watari, Aizawa, Ide, and Chief Detective Yagami that all feel fleshed out and serve a purpose in the anime. It never falls into the trap of having too much characters take up screen time and ruining it. The anime dropped in the mid-2000s and you can clearly see it. From how Misa is dressed, she looks very much like Avril Lavigne, to how out of date the technology is. They use things like call phones, which are ancient tech, and flip phones. Do flip phones even exist within society today? Like, can you even go to a store and be like, "Can I get a flip phone, please?" without looking like an absolute weirdo to the employee? Because there's no way they're selling any flip phones to the general public. Despite that, the show doesn't even feel out of place. It holds up, which is kinda crazy because usually animes from way back are eyesores. The animation looks goofy sometimes. I'm not saying to pay attention to the scenes that you see Ryuk in, but I'm also saying look at Ryuk in the background sometimes. Also having some moments that I don't think aged well. Though, all in all, I think it looks fine. But what's even better than the animation is the music. From the very first opening, you knew that the show was gonna be special. It has one of the most recognizable openings in anime history, and it's very catchy. Even people that have never watched the anime know about it and have heard about it. And look, Peter Griffin is singing the opening right there. That's gotta mean something. Sonic's got one too. And in my opinion, it's not just the opening that's good, it's all the music. Most of the music you've been hearing in this video has been a part of Death Note. Now some are obvious, but some are clearly not. They picked the perfect blend of music, from guitars to pianos to a cappella. It just fits what's going on within the show. Now, at the bequest of my boy Baz, he asked me to talk about the second opening and the fact that it is one of the most underrated openings of all time. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. It doesn't get the credit it deserves for slapping so hard because it got overshadowed by the first opening, but it deserves all the credit, man. Even though the lyrics were like high-key nonsense, because I have eyes and can see the lyrics in front of me, you just kind of felt the raw emotions coming out of this dude's mouth. There was a comment that summed up my feelings perfectly. For an anime that has no fighting, the opening goes the hardest out of anything out there. Now back to Death Note, the series kind of fell off. I know I've been glazing it, but it's because from episode 1 to episode 25, it was generally one of the most enthralling pieces of fiction I've ever watched. It was suspenseful, tense, clever, you could feel the thrill of the chase, and every little detail mattered. And then episode 26 hit. There was a time skip, Nier and Mello showed up, and even though I said earlier they were good characters, it still doesn't mean they weren't put in a lot of ass-pull situations. Nier was solving everything Light was doing, but nothing he did impressed me unlike how L was doing it before, because I don't think he had enough time to do his deductions, so it just looked crazy whenever he started speaking. That's why it's a bad idea to condense 50 or so chapters into 10 episodes. Now, I know that the manga explained it more in depth, but in the anime, it's not good at all. It just made me step back for a second and shake my head in disappointment. But the ending, hands down, is one of the best in anime history. Light's mental breakdown when the Death Note stops working and the double switch happens, the silence, the cut to some random rat, the laughter in a room so quiet, and the fact that he let his ego get in the way of his one chance to kill Nier. He turned around to taunt them instead of just writing his name. And Ryuk, as promised, wrote down his name in the Death Note. Everything was perfect. With an ending like that, you can easily overlook how we got there. But here's a not so fun fact. The mangaka wanted to end Death Note with Light winning, but Shonen Jump refused to let the series end, which led to the more chapters, which led to Nier and Mello, and this was confirmed in the author's next manga, Bakuman. You know, I'm glad we still got the ending, but I'm not saying that Light winning would have made it better. I'm just gonna say that it would have been a 10 out of 10. Now, we're here to talk about the big boy things. I want to talk about something that's way more interesting than everything I've talked about before, and that's L and Light's dynamic within the entire anime. Nier and Mello, they're fine characters, but I don't care about them because they weren't nearly as interesting as L. And I got a little working theory for that. You can say a game theory. The reason why it worked is because of how gay the dynamic was. I'm not saying this because it's Pride Month, but two one-of-a-kind geniuses going against each other, playing some different mind games, it's clearly toxic yaoi. There are some unquestionable moments that happen. Do you remember the episode where it was near the end of L and Light's saga, and they were both standing in the rain like it was some R&B music video from the 2000s? And when they got back inside, L wanted to massage Light's feet. What's that got to do with an investigation? Light doesn't like any of the girls he interacts with, and he still thinks of L even after he died. You can't deny it. It's right in front of our face. And certain fans, they picked up on it, especially the ones that be drawn, because I think they slightly changed how that scene went. Just search up Light and L, you'll find more pretty easily. They even have a shipping name, Law Light. It's still great that there's a fan base there. Usually mystery animes, thriller animes, and psychological horror animes don't retain fans through time. You need action to keep people usually, like how Steins Gate got 0 active fans. Death Note is just an anomaly in itself, even though it's one of those things. Death Note broke through the mainstream and it still has pop culture relevancy to this day. If you show someone a Death Note, there's a good chance they'll know what it is. You could still see fans on Twitter and Reddit and Tumblr and DeviantArt, don't check DeviantArt, in some anime forums just everywhere, even after 20 years. So don't take what I'm about to say next personal. Let's talk about the criticisms I have for Death Note. There's 2 things I want to criticize directly. The first thing is Light is supposed to be a so-called genius, right? I know that this scene is supposed to play into his egotistical character and how he's letting the mask slowly slip, but as a genius who calculates everything, why is he barking on all 4 at L's grave? Does he know that cemeteries have cameras too? They can easily see what you're doing, or did he just forget that? The second thing I want to talk about is Light is a tactical character, but sometimes in the story, he just flat out gets lucky, and there are plot devices that you're kind of forced to accept to keep the story pushing. But in the case of Naomi Misora, it is almost inexcusable. Naomi was a character who was suspicious of everyone but L, as she previously worked for him, and she was able to deduce the fact by herself that Kira had to be on the bus when her fiance was on there. And that scared Light so bad, and he was trying his best to lie to her multiple times and nearly be caught. Because if she had gone to L with the information she had brought in, Death Note would have ended within 6 episodes. So she had to be kicked off. She was a character that was introduced way too early into the story, but that still doesn't justify the fact that they killed her off pretty stupidly. Honestly though, that's about it. Death Note is an amazing anime and it shines a lot. And what makes it shine even brighter is what I said earlier about the little things. Like the moment when Light was pre-planning names in the Death Note, and in the montage, Light rips open a bag to eat from and it instantly pans to a dude ripping his shirt off. That's a pretty cool moment, not the death but how it was framed. There's also things like Misa's ringtone being the ending and how unstill the camera is in certain moments and how it comes very close to the subject's face. It just makes the scene feel more tense. Death Note makes you enjoy the little things. It was a great anime then and is still a great anime now. Watching it gave me the same feelings I had when I first saw it. Maybe not as shocking, but still powerful. It's also free, and everyone loves free things. So you can go get it right now on Pluto TV, Tubi, who hosts masterpieces like But I'm Married, and even the Roku channel. You can watch it on your grandma's TV. That sounds like a pretty good deal. Just do me a favor and never ever watch the 2017 remake, whoever made that needs their name written in a death note. Peace.